say I was shocked to hear that a sequel to Sicario was coming out was an understatement. Sicario was a rather impressively made movie that came out back in 2015, masterfully directed by Denis Villeneuve and starring Emily Blunt, neither of whom made it back for this sequel. It'd be like finding out that 3 years after the original, there was a sequel to Citizen Kane that didn't involve Orson Welles. Sicario, Day of the Soldado, begins with a series of terrorist bombings. The US government is quick to use these events to set up a situation where we now have to go to war with the Mexican drug cartels. The main people brought in are Matt Graver, Josh Brolin, and Alejandro Benicio del Toro, two supporting players in the original film that are made main players here. Part of their plan involves the abduction of Isabel Reyes, Isabela Moner, the daughter of a major drug lord who was also the boss of the men who killed Alejandro's family. Sicario 2 suffers from an overly long, exposition-heavy first act that has a tendency to feel like a collection of unconnected scenes rather than a natural story. Then, after entirely too long, we finally get to the second act, which is actually fairly solid and engaging, as though all the disconnected stuff might actually be coming together in a fascinating way. Then we get to the third act, when the story flies off the rails and becomes a train wreck foreshadowed in the first act. The real returning major player from the first film is screenwriter Taylor Sheridan, who is also responsible for the fantastic Hell or High Water. However, Sicario 2 doesn't feel like a movie written because Sheridan had a great idea on how to continue this saga. It feels like something he had to write because he was contractually obligated. I will say that I feel like the director, Stefano Sollima, does reasonably well stepping into Villeneuve's sizable shoes. He is not in the same caliber, but he does put together some skillful shots. Sicario, Day of the Soldado, feels like the original without the moral center Emily Blunt's character in the original that allows the audience a view that we can understand when watching some horrific acts. With everything brought together, the sequel ends up being much darker and rougher than the original. I could only recommend the sequel to people who thought the original movie was too lightweight and felt there was too much skill behind the camera. Everyone else should skip this one.
Hey, if you like this video, please make sure to hit that like button and go ahead and subscribe. That helps me out a lot. And if you really love this video, consider visiting my Patreon page.